All right, everybody, thank you for joining. I've got Darrin Evans with us from the VLC, and he is going to be presenting on the Accessible Math Guide Roadmap. Go ahead, Darrin.
All right, thanks, Emily, and thank all y'all for coming and spending a little time with me today. I won't keep you very long. We're just going to go over what this Accessible Math Guide is, how we did it, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what it looks like. So my name is Darrin Evans. I'm the director of the Virtual Learning Community's Professional Development Center director. I have a C instead of a D there, so that was my fault. So, primarily what we do is we do training. We do a lot with accessibility. We do course design stuff. So any sort of training or distance learning needs you have, if you contact us, it's all free to you. We can actually come to your college, or we can do things virtually. Some things we prefer to come to your college and actually get hands-on. So today we're going to go over the components of the Accessible Math Guide, and then I'll talk to you about some of the latest research in accessible math. I left off my acknowledgement slide, but this is anytime somebody says Darrin's going to share his guide, it is not my guide, it's our guide. I had a lot of help from colleges where I sort of piloted some of the training before the guide got done. I have about 4 colleges that I call my test kitchen. So those are people I can call up and say, I'm piloting something on EPUBs or math or whatever we're doing, UBL, and they'll invite me. I can go. I can kind of work through the kinks of things that we're, trying to get done. So it was a team effort here. So I'm gonna give you just a couple of background definitions of stuff. We won't spend a lot of time with this, but just some things that you kind of need to know before we, really get into it. So accessible math, that's math that is just basically perceivable, it's reflowable, it's operable. In other words, and I'll show you an example of this, we can make it screen reader accessible, and we can go through each part of the equation or the math. And I'm sure you all know what assistive technology is. That's really a broad definition. I'm using it here to mean screen readers, but there are lots of assistive technologies. If you teach math, you've probably used Desmos. It uses something called sonification, so it turns graphs into sound, essentially. We use a lot of MathJax. That's just a JavaScript library that makes math screen reader accessible. It's sort of a translator. And Equatio is a commercial software product that lets you take math from a PDF, and you can, do optical character recognition on it. You can copy that math and you can put it in an accessible format. MathML is just a markup language. If you put math into MathML, it's going to be screen reader accessible. But that's a little bit like saying to be a billionaire, you just have to have $1 billion in the bank. It's true, it's a very simple statement, but there's some complications with that. I really like Mathpix. It works almost exactly like Equatio. I just personally like Mathpix better. That and Equatio are essentially similar products. They do optical character recognition. MathType's a commercial math editing software that lets us output accessible math into, our learning management system, to the web. We can make Braille with it. There's a lot you can do with it. And we have found a way through our research to make even that office math from the equation editor, those used to be inaccessible, but we found a method to make those accessible now too. And then I guess I should have started with optical character recognition. That's just taking images of math and making it, turning it into text. Pandoc is something you should, even if you're not doing accessible math, Pandoc is something that you should know about. because it lets you take any document and convert it into another sort of document. So you can take a Word document and convert that into HTML, a PDF into HTML, an HTML document into PDF. It's command line, and there is a learning curve, but it's a very, very powerful utility, and it's free. And Publish to Math page is something that you can use with MathType. Now, as I'm going through here, if there are any kind of, if you have questions, or I say something that doesn't make sense, type in the chat, or if you need clarification, don't hesitate to stop me. LaTeX, this is pronounced LaTeX or LaTeX. Don't call it latex. If you do, I consult with people. If they call it latex, I kind of charge them double. That's just a joke. I don't really do that. But almost every math book you've ever had has been written with LaTeX. It's just a way to make math look good. It's just typesetting. But the benefit of it is you can make it accessible. And then there's a math mode in LaTeX to distinguish math formula from regular text. And we use $ for math for the most part. Except if we're using Moodle, we don't really do it that way. So I'm going to give you an example of this is what, accessible math sounds like. And as we go through, you'll notice that I can go through, or you'll be able to hear every part of the equation.
Algebra heading level 3. List with 3 items for. Simplify the following expression. 3x to the 5 power plus 8x cubed minus sign 7x squared minus sign 6x cubed 3. X to the 5 power plus 8x cubed.
So as you can see,
Algebra heading level.
As you can see, we're able to navigate through each part of that equation. It didn't get the parentheses, but again, it doesn't really need to, in the sense that we know that this is really one equation. Those parentheses in that case were sort of almost decorative, really. The main thing is you want to go through each part of the equation, and you want it to speak, so if someone can't see it, they know the equation they're going through. So now I'm going to share with you our roadmap, what we're doing, how we came up with this math guide. And as I said, I consulted with a lot of math faculty across the state. I got to thank the people at Haywood Community College, Craven Community College, Asheville Buncombe Tech in Asheville, and isothermal, because this guide was in whole or part written at those 4 colleges. So that was Cheryl Fulgham at Haywood, that's Joe James at isothermal, Jennifer Marquis at Craven, and I had Liz Watkin, Barbara Browning, and Paulette Evans, no relation to me, from AB Tech. And they let me pilot this and test it. And then I had a whole bunch of math faculty from across the state who kind of vetted me. So we'll go through this roadmap. This is our 1.0 version. It has screenshots and it lets you go through. It takes you step by step through how to create accessible math here. So the software we recommend is MathType, Mathpix, and I'll have links to all of these. WordToEPUB is free, Thorium Reader is free, Central Access Reader is free, and Mathpix actually, there's a free version that gives you about 50 snips a month, which is probably actually all you'll need. MathType is $49.99, but that's probably, out of the software that we recommend, that's probably the only one you'll have to actually pay for, depending on your use. So what we like about MathType, and again, one of the things we wanted to do was give you options for creating accessible math. So if you want to create accessible math inside your browser, if you want it to create it inside your LMS, if you want it to use LaTeX or not, if you had some PDFs that you needed to make accessible. So we tried to cover a couple of different areas and give you some options when it comes to creating accessible math. So we like MathType because it is just a plugin for Word. You can take the equations, type them right in Word, and then convert them to an accessible format. And it works, Mac and PC. It works a little bit in Google Docs. So MathType's very, very versatile. But it's not the only tool. So we wanted to show you multiple tools, multiple ways to do it. So Mathpix we like because we get a lot of, in our research and speaking with people, we get a lot of math that people put in PDF format and it wasn't accessible. So we, investigated, we found Mathpix, we found a way to take that math, OCR it, so kind of scan it, and then put it in an accessible format. And you can get Mathpix, a free version, as I said, it's 50 snips a month or 50 pictures a month of math. And that's probably, depending on your needs, that might be all you need. It's very, very versatile piece of software, and it's essentially free. There's a paid version, which you may or may not use. And we like Thorium Reader because this is something that reads EPUBs. It's totally free. We've done a pilot on EPUBs, and we're going to introduce those a little bit more widely. I'd like to, if you're at a college that's not one of our regulars, and you want to have an EPUB pilot, contact me after this, and we'll go through some things. I'll come to your college, and we'll go through step-by-step creating EPUBs. And we like EPUBs because they're easier to make accessible than PDFs. They have all the advantages of PDFs with none of the disadvantages of PDFs. And we can work through that with you and your college. Just contact me at any time and I'd be happy. I'm looking for about 2 more pilots. I did a pilot at Isothermal. We learned a lot from that one. We revised the training after that. And I did another one at Samson. We revised the training after that. So, sometimes it takes me a couple of bites of the apple to get it right. So WordToEPUB is free software, and this lets you convert, as long as you've got an accessible Word document, and you've got to know how to create accessible Word documents. If you really don't know how to do that, it's no use for you to have WordToEPUB. It's a waste of time for you to even get it. But once you know how to create accessible Word documents, WordToEPUB's free software, it lets you create an accessible EPUB from an accessible Word document. If the Word document is accessible, just with a couple of clicks, you can create an EPUB. And an EPUB is essentially, it's a compressed website. It's a compressed HTML file. You don't need to know anything about HTML to create EPUBs using WordToEPUB. You do need to know how to create an accessible Word document. And that's free. So that's a really powerful software. What's also good about it is WordToEPUB uses Pandoc that I told you about earlier. So it lets you also, if you don't want to create a document in the EPUB format, you can create just a plain HTML web document. So you could create essentially a website just using Word with WordToEPUB. So it lets you output what we call clean HTML. And it does a really, really good job of creating accessible math in an EPUB format. So I use a central access reader, which is free. I use it to proof listen to things. It really is a one-trick pony. All it does is it'll read out Word documents that have math in them. That's all it'll do. And and it also lets you create MP3s out of the math that it reads. So I use it to sort of make sure when I'm creating math in math type, I use the central access reader to sort of proof listen to it to make sure I haven't made any mistakes. So people always ask me this, what about accessible graphs? Well, why we left graphs off the guide, why they aren't here is there's basically 3 reasons. Manipulatives are just better right now. Just make an actual manipulative that someone can hold. I have a math kit that I use that's full of manipulatives of, sort of tactile graphs. I have, what we call geometry blocks. And, people check them out and I can't get them back. And the quote unquote normal or non-disabled students really like those tactiles because it lets them feel it. So at this point, tactiles are much, much better for doing, for representing graphs than anything we can do digitally right now. So we got some digital stuff we're working on, but right now, it's just, tactiles are just where it's at. Now, there is some exciting research in the digital accessibility grant, like say you have a student who's taking Math 172 online. Well, one of the things I always recommend to people, I recommend it to one of my sort of test kitchen schools. They had a person who was taking Math online 172, which is kind of graph heavy. And they had a visual impairment. So I said, why don't we just send them the graphs we have? The tactiles, right? The nail still works. So that was the solution there, was we actually sent this person, I think somebody dropped it off, the actual tactiles that they could, feel and see and mess with. So that's kind of the reason we left out graphs, because it's not, in the digital space, we're not ready. But we do have a few things we're working on, and we'll talk about that. And we have an ongoing project at the PD Center that we think will help as far as digital graphs go. So I wanted to just go over real quickly here while I have you, what I call the low-tech, high-touch accessibility options for graphing. So these are things that you can get, and I'm going to share this PowerPoint with Emily. We'll have links to all this stuff, so you don't have to write anything down. So I really love this Sensational blackboard. It's $50, and it creates tactiles off of just paper. So anything you lay on top of it, and you can just use plain notebook paper. You can use printer paper, any kind of paper you want, really. You can use a pencil, a pen. Pens work a little bit better, but you can use a pencil. And anything you write on the Sensational blackboard, it'll create a raised tactile. So I've got a bunch of just some of those 171, 172 graphs that we created on the Sensational blackboard. And they last, see, this pandemic, I've lost all track of time. I still, when I say last year, I still mean 2019. So I'm sometimes confused about what year it is. But those tactiles I created on the, on the Sensational blackboard, they lasted about 4 years I used them. So actually 5, I guess, because this is 2022. So, and it's $50, and it's a great tool to have when it comes to accessible math. So I really wanted to share this part of the presentation with you. Even though we have a math guide, we have step-by-step instructions on creating accessible math, that I wanted to sort of broaden your view of what I mean by accessible math. And it doesn't always have to be digital. Sometimes technology is maybe not the tool to use. Sometimes you want to have these sort of low-tech tactile solutions. So that was a Sensational Blackboard. It's $50. The in-text sketchpad is $125, or it was, inflation. It works almost exactly like the Sensational Blackboard, except you put a special kind of paper in this in-text sketchpad, and then you can create the tactiles, and they last a little bit longer. So, you know, it depends on how you want to do it. So I've made a lot of tactiles with that Sensational Blackboard, and then I put them in those protective plastic covers, and you know, they last pretty long. I also have the in-text sketchpad. I like to use that one as well. And those just give you a different, it's a little bit hardier graphic, I'll say. It's just a little bit tougher. And it has an included stylus in it. So you cannot use a pen or pencil on the in-text sketchpad. There's an included stylus inside the sketchpad that you have to use. Otherwise, it won't work. But I really like that in-text sketchpad. And then we have 3D printing. So there are a lot of programs you can use to create tactiles using 3D printers. Most of your colleges, well, I won't say most of them, the ones I've been to, right? The ones that I sort of frequent, they all have 3D printers. There are a lot of programs that are already created that will help you create tactile graphs. So we don't have time to really get into that, but there are a lot of, as I said, when it comes to graphing, right now, I still think tactiles are the best way to go. We have not caught up, the technology hasn't caught up with just what we call practical effects, right? It's like when you watch those movies and they have those computer-generated effects and they look just fake, and then you see another movie where they have like practical effects, they just look a little better. So this 3D printing is probably the best example of the three I showed you of creating custom graphics. So, you know, and 3D printers don't have to be expensive. There's another thing we're working on. It's a printer you can buy at like Michael's or any of the craft shop. It's called a Crit Cut, and it lets you make. It's mostly for crafters, and they make sort of tactiles that crafters like, but you can also use it for math. So, you know, when we say 3D printing, it doesn't have to be very, very expensive. So that's graphing. So any questions about that, or any questions on anything we've done so far? If you do have questions, just put it in the chat. So now let's look at what our roadmap contains. So remember, one of the things we wanted to kind of do with you, or the reason we created this guide was you, not you specifically maybe, but y'all are my customers, right? So at the PD Center, my job is to provide professional development for the colleges of North Carolina, 58 community colleges. So whatever y'all ask for is what we're going to do. So we created this because, you know, my test colleges said we need a guide to accessible math. So it took us, years to do this. But these were the things they wanted. They said they wanted workflows. They said, we've got to do something with optical character recognition with PDFs. We had to be able to do that. They had people that knew LaTeX at their colleges, some of the math people, depending on where they went to college. They wanted some math editing software. They didn't specifically ask for WordToEPUB. We discovered that during the process. And then they wanted to do something in their LMS. And in about a week, I'm going to be doing a webinar at the VLC Configio, and I'll walk you step by step through putting accessible math into your LMS. Well, that's as long as your LMS is Moodle, Blackboard, or Canvas. If you use another LMS besides that, that webinar won't cover it. So in that webinar, and I'll get you the date for that in just a little bit, because I frankly don't remember right now, but I'll get it to you before you leave. But in that webinar, I'm going to walk you step by step through putting accessible math into your LMS. So this is what my customers asked for. And we went looking. There wasn't one anywhere else in the country that we could find. So we had to create it on our own. And I had a lot of help with this. As I said, math faculty, and there were people, a team that put this together. So here's a generic accessible math workflow. First thing you got to determine is, what authoring environment do you want to use? Are you going to put it in your LMS? Where is it going? Do you have some LaTeX? Do you want to use MathType? Do you need some OCR? Do you need to use Mathpix to do it? So what do you want to do with it? And then the third step is, maybe you want to make it HTML. Maybe you want to save it as a course page in your LMS. That's going to be up to you. Maybe you want it to put it in what we call a Jupyter notebook. So there's a couple of things that you can do with that. But the main thing is, when it comes to accessible math, we want to give you as many options as possible. But we also want to give you freedom, right? How do you want to create this math? Where is it going? So depending on where the math is going, you're going to have different sort of workflows. And we try to cover the ones that you would run into. So Math OCR, I just want to make this as simple as possible. I'm just taking a picture of math in a PDF, and I'm converting it into an accessible format. That really is all it is. I can talk to you about JavaScript libraries and other things, but I don't want to put you to sleep. Really, you're taking a picture of some math in a PDF, and you're putting it into an accessible format. That's really all it is. So there's a free version of Equatio that you can get. There's a free version of Mathpix. Again, I prefer Mathpix. Doesn't make Mathpix better. It's just what I prefer. Some people like chocolate cake. Some people like lemon cake. It's just personal preference. Empty Reader is something that probably your DSS needs to have that. That's not something you probably need to have. Even if you teach math, it's probably not something you need to have. Something probably your DSS needs to have if you want to convert, say you have a blind student, they're taking calculus. With Empty Reader, we can convert. It'll be easier for them to convert the whole book to an accessible format. Equatio and Mathpix are going to cover probably most of your needs. So as I said, LaTeX is just a typesetting system. And depending on where your math faculty went to college, I used to think it was, when I first started traveling, I thought it was people's age, which determined if they knew LaTeX or not. And then I discovered it's where they went to college. So it's just a typesetting system to create accessible math and create pretty math. It ends up creating accessible math with a few tweaks. So MathType is, as I said, it's just that free plugin to Word. It lets you create any kind of math you want right on your desktop. Very simple to do. And then you can convert that into an accessible format. The easiest format is something we call HTML plus MathJax. Now, we talked a little bit about what WordToEPUB does, what it is. It's just a way to convert an accessible Word document into an accessible EPUB. It's free to download. The only caveat is you have to know how to create accessible Word documents. It is PC only. There's a Mac version coming, but it probably won't be here before, third quarter 2023 at the earliest. So one of the reasons when I'm training people on accessibility, we go around, I always start with accessible Word because Word is the building block. If you understand the concept of creating an accessible Word document, believe it or not, you also understand the concept of creating an accessible web page, an accessible Google Doc, an accessible PDF, an accessible PowerPoint, an accessible Excel spreadsheet. So Word is sort of the foundation for that. So WordToEPUB, I'd be very happy to come to your college, train your faculty and staff on how to create EPUBs and use those to sort of, look, we're in higher education, we're never getting rid of PDFs, that's simply not going to happen. But using EPUBs, we could convert some of our PDFs to EPUB format because they're easier to make accessible, they're easier to create, they'll be easier for your students to read on their phones, which they're doing. So that's WordToEPUB. And again, you just have a tab in Word. You make sure you have an accessible Word document, and then you just click WordToEPUB. It's a couple of clicks. Very easy to do. Where we get into trouble is creating that accessible Word document. That's really the bottleneck. Now for your learning management system, and as I said, we have a webinar in, I think it's a week or two. I think it's October 18th, 9th. I think it's October 20th, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. But I'm gonna have a webinar through Configio where we're gonna go through step by step, as long as you use Blackboard, Moodle, or Canvas, all right? If you use DTL or Sakai, there's not much I can do for you, all right? But if you use Blackboard, Moodle, or Canvas, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to input accessible math in your LMS. So most of them have what we call MathJax rendering, and as I said, MathJax is a translator. It takes LaTeX and it makes it into an accessible format. So again, I'm going to share this PowerPoint with Emily. If you want to know if your LMS or whatever version you've got, I don't know everybody's version of their LMS or what your college is, but if you take this code right here, you just copy it, create any kind of an assignments page in your LMS, and you paste it in. If you see A over B, that means that your LMS will render MathJax and LaTeX. So you don't have to do anything after that point except, put the math in. There's a couple of things you have to do, but nothing major. At that point, if you copy this piece of code and you put it in your LMS and you get A over B, there's no excuse for you ever not to have accessible math in your LMS because it's automatic. There's nothing you're going to have to do. If it doesn't display, you may have to do this, slash parentheses, that code slash parentheses, or $, parentheses, $, parentheses. But we'll get all into that when we do our webinar. And we're going to walk you through exactly how to do that. So what we're working on a program to create accessible graphs via SVG. You don't really know what that stands for. You probably don't care. It doesn't matter. And we're working with something called Describbler. So I said earlier, and I stand by this, that tactiles are the way to go. Sometimes you're going to have digital representations of graphs. And this is one of the sort of solutions that we're working on for that digital representation. Now, this is version 1.0 of our math guide. You're going to see a little bit of it. And this is just the beginning, right? So, you know, we're not going to do it by years. We're going to do it by first 1.0 edition, second edition. We're about a third of the way through writing the second edition. I'm about a third of the way through writing the second edition. An interesting thing was that the three people that helped with this who were instrumental in really doing it, two of them are no longer with the community college system. So I kind of, I guess, ran them away with this because it was so intensive. That's what I joke with them anyway now. But we have future updates in mind, but we'd love your feedback and your suggestions. So I'm going to show you in just a second how to get this. We'll talk about that webinar we're going to do and some of the other things we have, some of the services we have for you, right? This training, all the training we offer is free. There's no need for you to, you know, invent universal design training, course design training, accessibility training for your college. You have a free resource in the VLC. You just have to call me, right? I can't read your mind. And we'll come out and provide all your training needs to you. Nobody in this system can say they've ever called or emailed me and they haven't got a response. They can say maybe they didn't like the response. That's possible. I won't dispute that, but not that they didn't get one or that we haven't provided whatever they said they needed, we provided. So I've got a couple of resources for you. This STEM accessibility course, it's focused on math type, but it's from the California Community College System. It's got some good how-to videos, and that's a good, it's a really good training. And I really recommend that. It's free. It's Canvas. You should take it. I have something called LaTeX for Beginners here for you. And this is really walk that math faculty through creating LaTeX documents. And then Detexify lets them actually handwrite if they have a tablet or that kind of thing. They can handwrite some math and it'll convert it to LaTeX for them. And then I have links here to Mathpix, Math Type, Central Access Reader, WordToEPUB, and Thorium Reader. So thank you for attending this Lunch and Learn. I'm going to stop sharing in a second, and then we're going to go out and I'll show you how to get the math guide, and we'll look, and then we'll talk about the webinar as well. So if you would like training for your college, or you want to, you know, provide feedback and suggestions, my email is daevans3@waketech.edu. You can call anytime at 919-866-5636. Again, we have all these trainings for you that we offer for free, but I can only, I'm like a vampire. I can only go where I'm invited. I can't go, I just can't show up at your college. So, you know, that's just one of those things. You have to say, hey, we want training in Word. If you say you want accessibility training, I'm going to start you with Word simply because it's the foundation, right? A long time ago, I worked in a sort of fancy restaurant in California. When I was in college, I'd go out there in the summers and visit my brother, and I was a saucier. I made sauces. But they start you out with just, you know, making an omelet, right? They ask, do you know how to beat an egg? You're like, yeah, of course I know how to beat an egg. And then they show you and you're like, well, maybe I don't know how to beat an egg. And so they start with the basics, and then you start with what they call the mother sauces, right? Once you can make a mother sauce, you can make any other sauce. So Word is kind of like that for us. It's our, when it comes to accessibility, the concepts you're going to see in Word, about alt text and image descriptions, about headings and structure, right? About readable fonts, about meaningful hyperlinks. Those are going to apply to every part of digital accessibility. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this with you. We're going to go out in just a second. We're going to look at the website, the VLC's Configio, and we'll talk about where you can get the math guide. Do we have any questions? So yeah, Ed, I think Ed's talking about Mathematica. Yeah, Ed, we have used Mathematica. That'll be in our 2.0 version. But one of the things that I really, well, let me be careful how I say this. Mathematica is a good program. I think MathType is more versatile in the sense for what we ask our math faculty to do. And we wanted to create a guide, we wanted to go step by step through it. And we wanted to create a guide that people would use, right? So they could download this guide that I'm about to show you. And, once they downloaded the guide, it walks them through exactly how to do it. All right. They may have questions. There may be, well, does this work or does that work? And that's fine. But we wanted something that I could walk them through. They could just walk through creating accessible math. And we'll include Mathematica in this next version as a, I have a sort of philosophy, Ed, I call it crawl, walk, run, right? The crawl phase is we learn Word and we learn all those accessibility features. The walk phase is, all right, so we can create accessible Word documents. Let's talk about PowerPoints and let's talk about, PDFs a little bit. Let's talk about Excel docs. Let's talk about some more stuff. So that's the walk. And then the run is, let's talk about websites. Let's talk about creating math. Let's talk about, MathType, LaTeX, Mathematica. So we try to delineate it that way by crawl, walk, run. So we don't overwhelm people and we sort of scaffold it. It's just our philosophy. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to do it. But that's, that's kind of our way. That's kind of the way we think about it. That's kind of the way we choose to do it, I guess. All right, so I'm going to walk you through our, in just a second here, I'm going to walk you through our VLC Configio. I'm going to share that with you. Let's see, share screen. Let's see. All right, so you should be able to now see the VLC Configio, and it's just very simple. It's VLCconfigio.com. If you are a member of, and you are, if you work at a community college, you can get a free account to our Configio, and this walks you through the things that we're going to do. So I haven't logged in, but when you go to vlc.configio.com, you type in math. So yeah, it is October 20th. I'm gonna have accessible math in Moodle, Blackboard, and Canvas, a how-to guide. So in this presentation, you're going to be walked through with screenshots exactly how to create accessible math if you use Moodle, Blackboard, or Canvas. If you use, Sakai or D2L, sorry, I can't help you. Then you have our the VLC Accessible Math Guide, which we've talked about. And then we also have a MathType guide. So between the things that we offer for you, there is no reason anybody in the 58 community colleges should not be able to at least have a rudimentary understanding of creating accessible math content. Because we have everything covered for you, right? We got it in your LMS. If you want to use MathType, the VLC Accessible Math Guide, the 1.0 version. So we're going to go with, again, I think we'll have the 2.0 version maybe by next fall. There are some developments and there are some things that we're sort of working on. So that's where you get it. You go to vlc.configio.com. You can sign up for any of our webinars. Let's click upcoming events and see what that gives us. You have Elizabeth Simpson, who does a fantastic job on talking about OpenNCCC. And she repeats these webinars. All these trainings are free to you. You simply have to come to vlc.configio.com, sign up for stuff. It's going to ask you to log in. I don't know who's doing Blackboard Collaborate. I think that may be Elizabeth as well. You see that on October 20th, you have Accessible Math and Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas. On the 26th, Introduction to PDF Accessibility. I'll just walk you through. Here's how you create an accessible PDF. Here's the basics. If you want me to come to your college and train you, it's going to take, a day or two. We'll try to break it up, not make it boring for you, but we can certainly, get you to that point with PDFs. So these are the things that we have available. These are all free to you. November 9th, you have HighFlex instruction, OER that Elizabeth Simpson is doing, and November 10th. So all of these trainings are free at vlc.configio.com. You can sign up. You're going to have to log in to get them. Let's see if I'll sign up for, I'll show you just the sign up process. So I'll sign up for Open Educational Resources. So now obviously I've got to log into my existing account. I already have my email and password. I'll log in. And I simply just add this to my cart. All right, I register. And then I can check out. It's that simple. And as I said, these trainings are free to you for our webinars. We do site visits, whatever needs you have, we can walk you through that. Now, do we have any questions or any questions? Anything that maybe was not covered, anything that was perhaps not as clear as it could or should have been? Anything you want to, I guess I should show you the copy of the actual guide. Let me open that up for you. But as I'm opening this up, are there any questions with anything we've done? Comments, question, complaints? No, don't. If you have complaints, please don't share them. Yeah, we don't. You can keep those to yourself. But anything, Ed, anything else that maybe I didn't cover? That I know that you were a math person back in the day before you got the LMS job. So anything I missed or anything that you would like me to maybe go over or cover, or anything that I missed? Oh, well, he's gone. All right, so he's got to go. All right,
I do have to run, Darrin, but thank you for the presentation. How much are those puff printers?
Oh, those crit cuts you can get for like $100. Yeah, you can get a crit cut for like 100, 150 bucks.
There's also like, it's not exactly 3D printing with material, but it's like a puff printer. Have you?
Yeah. The puff printers are, it depends on the model you get. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. So they can be in the $400 or $500 range. Some are even in the
Yeah, I thought they were pretty pricey.
yeah.
That was just one thing that I didn't hear from you in terms of all the graphing stuff, but I agree that those tactile are probably the best bet right now. So great stuff, Darrin.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you coming, Ed. So now, before we leave, just a few more minutes, I just want to kind of show you the math guide, what it looks like. And I have to thank, I haven't looked at the participants, but Natasha Burgess Rodriguez from Wake Tech was the layout artist. She did a fantastic job. I don't know if she's here today. I hope she is. She's the last woman standing from the team. And we'll look at the table of contents. So, we've got the introduction, what is accessible math. We have examples for you. We have LaTeX to Word, Word to HTML. I can click on this Blackboard. Oh, I can't do that now because I haven't opened the navigation pane. But I'll walk you through Mathpix. So it gives you step-by-step how to get through there, how to log in, sign up. Gives you keyboard shortcuts. We want it to cover everything that you would possibly need to create accessible math. And there's got to be one method that you can find from within, right? So we talk to you, Equatio. We walk you through things here with screenshots, how to do things. You can go to VLC Configio, get all this. If you need more training, or you would like us to come to your college, just give me a call. And while I have you here as a captive audience, I got to thank Vicki Todd of Southwest Community College, Brandon Kraft of Wilson Community College, John Hardy, he's of Davidson Davie, Tammy Sullivan's at AB Tech, Adam Pettit's at Isothermal, and Deirdre Wood at Cape Fear Community College. These are the math instructors who vetted this, who answered all my crazy questions at crazy times, who were always willing to get back to me and make this guide a little bit better. So I have to thank them. I have to thank my sort of test kitchen colleges, Natasha, Joseph, and Misty. So I won't take credit for this guide. If there's any mistakes in it, I'll take 100% credit for all of those. So please, I'd like for you to use it. Download it, share it with your math faculty. If they have complaints, share them with me. We want to make this as, we want to create the best product we can, and we need feedback for that. So with that, I'll stop the share, and I think we have just maybe 6 or 7 minutes for questions if you have any. I'm not that good a teacher, so I'm sure there's some questions somewhere, right? Or maybe not.
Thanks, Darrin. And if anyone does have any questions, you do have capabilities, or if you just want to use your mic, feel free to ask or pop in the chat.
Yeah, you can add them to the chat or just unmic yourself if you have a question or a suggestion or feedback in any way.
And while people are thinking, I will put in another plug to say, if you're attending the System Office conference starting Sunday, it's Sunday through Tuesday, you can join NC3ADL Tuesday morning at 8:15. Fortunately, I don't know the exact room number, but we will be having a session there just to kind of talk about what we're doing, what our plans are, and go from there. Always got to put in that plug.
All right, looks like there's it looks like there's one new message here. April says, thank you for sharing. Look forward to the next one. Yeah, well, I'm not doing the next one, so I hope that'll be good. But I know it'll be great because Emily's not going to have somebody here who does do a good job.
So our November topic for First Fridays is achieving equity through culturally relevant assessment. And then we also have one slated in December for how equitable communications in the classroom impacts retention. So we do have a pretty good lineup coming up in the next couple months with our First Friday webinars. And if anyone has a topic in mind or something they would like to present, please feel free to contact me, and I will be happy to work with you and get you on schedule. I will put my email address in the chat. But yeah, thank you so much, Darrin. And unless anyone else has any questions, y'all enjoy your afternoon and your weekend.
And I did put my email in there just as a last ditch effort. Yeah, give me a call, an email, and thank you so much for coming. Emily, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.